And had you run specifically in any kind of electoral contest before?
Never even contemplated it, really.
So it's kind of just the crossover skills. I'm not intimidated going door to door, talking to people, and that's all applicable here. So away I go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think this issue just became very passionate about it, and things have become so divisive in our politics, in our everyday lives. People can't even really talk about politics in a lot of situations. And it seems to me more and more, similar to what's going on in the U.S. They have the Republicans and Democrats that are surely divided, and we seem to have the conservative and liberals. And I know that with electoral reform, we could, get away from that divisiveness, because we'd be, forcing politicians to work in a, collaborative way, coalition governments, best ideas from the different parties. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but, that's sort of what led me down this path.
If you had to put your finger on it, like when you're out walking for hours and hours handing out thousands and thousands of leaflets, what kind of what are you drawing?
Yeah, no, I mean, it just goes back to the divisiveness that there exists. And, a couple of things. I was reading an article about somebody sort of observed that a couple of things have happened in the last, say, 10 or 20 years that have really helped to make sort of this division between left and right in our politics. And one is media. Media can really sell by pulling on our heartstrings, and so they've really played a part in making this left and right headline on a daily basis. And the other one is just social media itself and a lot of the disinformation that exists out there. Learning everything I needed to learn to become a candidate. If you're part of a political party, it's sort of a different thing. I'm sure you have a lot of help, a lot of history there, and people that know what you need to do to get in the game. But for an independent, you're kind of out there on your own. So one of the things, of course, is we had to collect 100 signatures.
Right.
So you're going door to door and basically explaining to people that you're going to run as an independent and I need to get 100 signatures. This doesn't endorse me as a candidate. It just sort of gives me the right to run. So that in itself was an interesting experience.
Okay, well, tell me that. Like, is there a vignette? Is there a particular story of one encounter that made you realize, oh, this maybe is terrifying or easy, or people are receptive, or people are frosty, or
people were receptive. I thought a lot of doors I knocked on didn't answer, but the ones that did, I'd say 90% or more, were very receptive. I wasn't asking for much, although I was asking for a signature and a phone number and an address. So in this day and age, people are a little concerned about that. But because I guess maybe it was an official government paper, Elections Canada, they were okay with it. But people were so positive on the fact that, you're willing to try to do something to make our country better. You're putting yourself out there. Sure, I'll support you.
Yeah.
So that really, that was great. That really helped spur things on.
Yeah, I've come across that too. People say, oh, wow, good for you to put yourself out there. Oh, thanks for trying to make a change.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if somehow we can connect these dots and then we can actually make that change that we want to. That we don't have to end up in the realm of good effort, but we could have some good results.
It'd be neat to find a way to promote it and say, hey, this is what we've done. Anyone else interested?
Okay, so talk about that for a moment, if you don't mind. I'm curious. Like, now that you run, how does it feel? Does it feel like your relation to MPs or candidates or elections, does it feel different, or does it feel, is there a buoyancy? Is there a discouragement? Is there, I don't know, what comes up?
No, I feel like I'm in the game now.
Okay.
I feel like, that I understand the rules to a certain extent of the game, and there's strategies to sort of spend more time with to figure out. and just more ways to spread the word. I think this is a good tool to spread the word of proportional representation. I know Fair Vote Canada has their website and they do the promotions and that's all great. But if we had people in ridings, like multiple ridings, doing what we've done, we're touching base with a lot of people on this idea. And I think that would be great. So every time the population increases, there's these ridings have to be sort of reconfigured, and this presents growth in the number of MPs. And I sort of looked at this across the country and where all these MPs at, and I found it interesting that like the city of Edmonton has 9 MPs, 9 ridings that all have MPs, and so each one of these members of parliament for the 9 ridings in Edmonton, they all go to Ottawa and they fight for the city of Edmonton. But their 9 areas of Edmonton aren't unique when it comes to federal politics. So I found this somewhat redundant and question it, actually.
We need a lot more MPs. Like kind of in the same way that if you're at a busy restaurant, they better have a lot of waiters and waitresses. Otherwise, that thing is going to get jammed up and people are going to get bad service. I don't feel like I'm getting good service. I feel like I'm getting bad service. Interestingly, in Ireland, I think they have it in their constitution or in a piece of legislation that there's a minimum number of citizens per MP, and there's a maximum number of citizens per MP for any given riding, I think.
Yeah.
So it might be like 30,000 to 50,000. So if it goes above 50,000, then they got to add another MP in that ride, and if it goes below 30,000, then they take one away. But they're looking. But just the idea of, but maybe you raise that point indirectly as like, what is the right number of MPs for the right number of people? Is it? And maybe you're right. Like, are they all representing Edmonton differently?
Right.
Does the need of Edmonton change? But then maybe I'd say if we had a system that really reflects what Canadians are voting for, maybe you'd have 6 different parties represented in Edmonton. So now it's not really the numbers per se, but it's also the diversity of viewpoints. This idea of convincing the Liberal Party to support proportional representation seems misguided, is kind of putting it lightly. I think it's not getting the right sense of the issue. The way I see it, the Liberals operate from this sweet spot in the political spectrum that everything kind of just ends up their way by default. So really,
Ontario and Quebec.
Conservatives are a minority party. They're not.
I agree.
They're more like the NDP or the Bloc than they are like the Liberals.
I think so. I don't think they want to hear it, but they're the ones that I think really need to look strongly at proportional representation in the long run. I think it would help them. I think the Liberals, they've just learned how to game the system so well. There's so much population in Quebec and Ontario. They seem to just, go about their business in government for 2 or 3 years, and then when the elections happen, they just do a great job of fear-mongering everybody in Ontario, Quebec, that the last thing you want is a Conservative Party. And they just swing all their votes in Quebec and Ontario, and off they go.
So like Motion 86, where people say we got this many of the Liberals to vote for it, I think that's great individually, but like, what how can we take the message to conservative voters and conservative politicians and conservative party people and say, is there a different way to look at this, in the sense that would this change the political dynamics enough to allow conservative voices to actually consistently affect policy?